Yippee-ki-yay, monkey farmers. It is K-Swope, and I got a quick personal story before we get into this review. Die Hard, okay? Die Hard is my dad's, favorite movie, okay? He loves it. He keeps telling me this story, that when it came out in theaters, he saw it in theaters 3 times, each time with a different girl, okay? So, when he was dating. I don't know how I feel about that exactly, but I do know that Die Hard is a film worth talking about, and that's why we are talking about it in this review. Now, this Christmas, I didn't have a whole lot of time to plan, so I kind of got down to the wire, so here's what I'm doing. Die Hard and Die Hard 2, Die Harder, okay? Those are both Christmas movies, objectively. That being said, what I'm going to do is this week we're doing Die Hard review, next week we're doing Die Hard 2, Die Harder right before Christmas. So, very excited for that 4-hour review of Die Hard. Here's what we're going to be doing. We are going to be looking at the movie. We're going to talk about the good things about it, the bad things about it, and then I will, of course, be ranking the movie on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being walking on broken glass without any shoes on. 10 being buying a bunch of Twinkies for your pregnant wife. Hopefully that makes sense. But if it doesn't, that's all right, too. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and dive right in. Let's go ahead and talk about the good things of the movie Die Hard. First things first. The setting of this movie and the plot are very, very great, and they're very, very unique. This is the movie that I would go as far to say, because I don't know of any movies before that kind of did this trope, but really set the trope in place of a hostage scenario type of movie, where there's one man who's trying to take down all of the enemies from the inside kind of thing. Because as you know in the movie, John McClane, New York cops in Nakatomi Plaza, the whole place gets under a hostage situation. The police can't get in. He's in there. He's taking out the guys one by one as carefully as he can without getting killed or shot himself. But it's a great movie, and that setting is amazing. There are so many movies that kind of copied that setting afterwards, so many different things here and there. For example, my favorite one, of course, being Paul Blart Mall Cop. I actually saw that movie before I saw Die Hard, which kind of, I don't want to say it ruined some things for me, but it definitely, because it borrows so many elements, I would see things in Die Hard and think, oh yeah, that's like in Paul Blart. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. Another thing you got to give this movie too, the action sequences, they are done phenomenally. What we see a lot of is it's pretty practical for the most part. There's a few, suspension of disbelief moments here and there, but it is mostly very, very well done and very practical and good. And I like that a lot because when I'm watching action movies, I hate when this crazy, bizarre stuff is going off, and I'm like, that is not grounded in reality at all, and this movie is quite grounded in reality. It's also important to note that the acting in this movie is also fantastic. We, of course, have Bruce Willis in his first big action movie role, which was really big for him because at that point, he kind of did the same career course correction that John Travolta did, where he was known for Grease and Saturday Night Fever, and then he eventually went on to become this action star and stuff like Pulp Fiction and stuff like that, things of that nature. Bruce Willis kind of did the same kind of thing. He was very much a pretty boy type, which is kind of weird to think about nowadays because the paradigm people have in their head of Bruce Willis is very different now, and this movie, Die Hard, is the movie that changed that. It's kind of crazy, though, because if you go back and you see about the promotionals for Die Hard before the movie came out, they really were trying to hide the fact that Bruce Willis starred in it because they thought it would turn people off, when really it ended up doing the exact opposite because he did such a good job in the role as John McClane, and then, of course, he'll go on to do that for, I want to say, 4 more sequels afterwards? Yeah, 4 sequels. And of course, our antagonist, Alan Rickman, okay, he was a legend. Rest in peace, Alan Rickman. He was amazing. But of course, he does a fantastic job as well. He's just a really good actor, and he really flexes his acting chops in this movie, and we can see that very, very clear. Another thing I want to talk about, it's really small, is I really love how they use music in this movie, specifically Ode to Joy, because they use it at distinct moments in the movie, and it really helps you break down the movie in a sense too, because they play it at the end of Act 1 and the end of Act 2, so me being, a geek of that kind of thing, and how the films are structured and written, I find that was really interesting, because it lets you know mentally, okay, we're getting on to the next section of this film, whenever that song plays, because first we hear them playing it. It's a little bit integrated into the score of the film, but at the Christmas party at Nakatomi Plaza, what's going on is they have a band there, a string band, and they're playing that. Played for a bit too long if you ask me, because the song's kind of repetitive. But they're playing that, and then Hans Gruber shows up, takes everybody, and then at the end, when they open the vault, it plays really loud and triumphantly as part of the score. And that is where we're moving into the final 30 minutes of the movie, and we are getting into Act 3 territory. So that's really cool. That's a nice little filmmaking thing to point out here and there. But with every good movie, there are also, of course, some bad things to say as well. I have two things to talk about in this movie. For one, I really hate in movies, generally speaking, just nudity, especially when it's really, really unnecessary. And there's like 2 or 3 really small, not very long moments in this film where there's some nudity. And my biggest thing is this. I think you can make debates as to, now I don't necessarily agree with these debates, but I think, there's at least some interesting thought in them that there is a place for some type of, sex or nudity in movies. Again, I don't agree with them, but I think you can at least make an interesting case. But in this movie, they don't add anything to the plot. And that's what I think when people make the debate, that's the only ground they have to stand on, is if it adds something to the plot, meaning if characters doing certain things, if you catch what I'm saying, if that adds some type of emotional attachment to the characters. And I get that, okay? So that kind of makes a little bit of sense to me. But when you have it in and it doesn't serve any purpose, like in this movie, again, there's just 2 or 3 really small moments where there's like a poster with a lady who's like topless, and like, no, that doesn't need to be there. That's not adding anything to the plot of this film. And then there's like a couple who they pull out hostages who are getting down and dirty in an office, and I'm like, no, that's gross. That's an HR violation for one, but it's also gross. The other thing in this movie, if you watch it closely enough, there are a few small, well, some are small, some are actually really big, continuity errors. For one, John McClane during most of this movie, he's wearing his iconic white tank top. And what happens is after the scene where he's crawling in the vents, next time we see him when he's outside of the vents, his tank top's straight brown at this point. And I understand they wanted to make him look dirty, because he was crawling around in the vents where it's all dusty and stuff like that, which is kind of gross. I get that, and I know it's a little bit of a nitpick, okay? Not a really big deal. But something that is a really big deal, that is a nitpick, is there's a scene where they're driving a fake ambulance for them to get away, the bad guys, out of this big truck that they drive into the parking garage area. And the problem is that same truck we see at the beginning of the movie has nothing in it, just the crew of bad guys as they walk into the Nakatomi Plaza. There's just a big continuity error there. And to be quite frank, I probably would have noticed that unless I watched The Movies That Made Us on Netflix, which is a great documentary series. Highly recommend that. But they pointed that out. I want to say it was one of the writers, producers, director, maybe, someone who was working on the film. Because during this film, actually, they were writing most of it as they were filming because they were really behind on that. And by some miracle, it ended up being as good as it is, which is also really, really crazy. But that is basically my idea, my look at Die Hard, which, of course, Christmas classic. Everybody knows that, right? Anyone who denies that is obviously a Santa denier. And Santa Claus is objectively real, okay? Fight me. Anyways, I digress. What I really mean to say is Die Hard, fantastic Christmas film. Highly recommend. And that is why I give Die Hard a, let's go 8.5 out of 10 on my ranking. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Again, we're going to be diving into Die Hard 2, Die Hard, or another Christmas movie next week. So, make sure you guys are ready for that. And hey, if you want to see that, if you want to make sure that you don't miss out, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Thanks you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, drop a comment, leave a like, anything like that. I will greatly appreciate. But until next week, I'm K-Swope, and I will see you in the next one.